So we're back again in regards to, there's something I want to sort of go over, because I believe that the mind is like a measurement, or perception is like a measurement, right? It's never to its actual conclusion in most instances, but it's never completely static, because as one's understanding improves over time, one's perception also changes to some degree, and wisdom and other things of that nature all change what perception is. So one thing I want to get back to perceiving is regarding this tablet here, the Shamash tablet, and the key thing to outline here is the importance or meaning of it. So for me, ultimately it means multiple things. So prior I was like, this might be associated with my vision of thought, although it's not completely related to me, but we're meant to take things in a perceptive way, utilize them to enrich our understanding of reality, right? And so I took these three fundamental things, or these concepts that was occurring in my life at that particular time, to bring about some sort of meaning into this manifestation. Not a lot of people are also gonna get it. The whole thing is broad. Like, I speak about it a lot in my videos and stuff, or in other videos that I've made, but it won't really give that correct understanding that's required in one sense or another, right? So for me, the other part of it, I don't know if anybody knows or understands, like from my understanding anyway, when I associated it with my OSCE, is the notion of greenfield. So I don't know if anyone knows what a greenfield project is. So it's just that notion of, like, that was the ultimate conclusion of that particular sept of time, was that you have these people, right? You have the pandemic that just happened, though these people are just there doing their thing, right? Wherever they may be. And they're just there doing their thing, whatever, just, it's like they probably don't even know who I am, but obviously it's from my perception of things, right? They're just doing whatever businesses they're doing. But the point is about the green field, right? It's about getting to the other side and doing something good or great. Ultimately is the intention there. So that was initially that thought there, and it was just focused on that sort of perceptive understanding and my notion regarding things, right? However, as time changes, ultimately it changes. I don't know what that would have taken from that, or where that would have ultimately led. And it's not that we don't like to follow the law. It's just that, things are just hazy a bit. In regards to that, and I always imagine that, maybe it was sourced from a good place. Okay, so that's the Shamash. But now that we move on from that, right? I think that the first and foremost thing is, now I take this and I associate, because obviously I don't really smoke weed like that nowadays, and I try not to buy from too many people, because when I went to see the last time, it's just like the people that used to sell to me before aren't really the same people anymore. So I kind of just stopped, because last time I called two or three of them or something, and then it was like, yeah, now one of them disappeared. I don't know what happened to that guy. The other two, there was these other guys that were that were now moving the food. So I was just like, what, fuck that, man. Man's not really into that. I don't really know them like that, and I would have been comfortable with the same people. So I just sort of kept to that, and just sort of left them to their side. Sometimes people get, I don't know. Sometimes people change, and they become iffy, and sometimes people cannot be. They lose a sense of gratefulness or gratitude to a degree. At least that's the feeling that I got, though I didn't feel or experience or encounter anything in particular in relating to that, right? So that's one thing. So that's that. Now though, with my being just self being at this present moment, right? I then now extrapolate and go on further to this. So now I merge these at present, right? And say who were the three initiates, right? Not many people know and not many people have an understanding of, but you will see I associate the three initiates with these three people here. So there would have been Noah, which is the being who's achieved his level of aesthetic consciousness, right? So I would say that that's the reach that I would never reach to a degree, but basically this person is reached that level of high level consciousness, and ultimately what's happening here is that he's actually sitting down to lower himself down to the peoples, to bring down his frequency of understanding, to bring down his frequency, his own frequency of understanding. And by doing so, right, he is able to reach these three initiates and initiate them into whatever it is that he's bringing forth into this new world of being, right? This individual here, we won't talk too much about that particular individual, but for them to gain some respect, I suppose they would have to gain it from someone else, and he has some of the Babylonian disc here. Right? So that's the way that I'm looking at it at this point in time, right? So it's like these three initiates were initiated into something, then they seeked to preserve the knowledge that they had actually been given. You know, they were grateful for it. So they passed it on down through generations. They took the understanding, or the base understandings of what they could remember from these teachings, and they extrapolated those onwards into a new way of being or a new way of living. Which I think is pretty cool. And we also have it will definitely extend onwards, you know. There's more that I could say, but I'm not going to, because it just seem like fluff at the end of the day, which it can be seen as fluff. But I feel that these teachings are very are relevant. So it's kind of like sometimes the mind is like a possession to a degree of thought. You know what we say in the Unix world? The beard always means wisdom and growth and understanding. So having that longy beard there just sort of extends that that extra wisdom. They're sitting down and sort of bringing one's consciousness and the growth as well is extrapolated off that. And then that's what that ultimately means in my view of things from this day. And then we extend that on into the Hermetic philosophy. Based on the time at which that was occurring, it's somewhat logical, though the Hermetic philosophy appeared later, much later on. And we can't always be certain, because obviously through wars and things like that, a lot of books have been lost and a lot of teachings have been lost, but some of them have been preserved in a manner in which they can't be lost nor destroyed. So that's that for this present moment in time, and that could also change going forward to a degree. And I think the waters here, the little swiggly lines, I'm gonna state that they represent the waters of the. They represent transmutation, the transmutive states of water, right? So these people would have obviously understood. It's funny how much you can learn from nature, you know. These people would have ultimately understood that water turns from water, and when it's hard, it turns to it evaporates, and obviously it turns to ice. This is the transmutative process described through water. They change, right? And then they would have understand that the usefulness of each component of that, right? So the ice, they would have understood that they could use it to uh, store for storage of water. They could have used it also for food and other things. Um, Especially when it came to fish. It takes some getting used to actually get an understanding, but you need to move from environment to environment and understand the difference of like, oh well, I had this fish the other day. If we imagine that, you know, based on what the popular belief is, people were stupid at that time, or not stupid, were of a lower level apparently. If you read the Sephora Yetra, you'd know that's not true. But basically the, you know, you'd have like a fish or whatever, and then, you know, you'd have fish in a cold place. It'll last a little bit longer, etc. Whereas you go to the hot place, you catch a fish and you find out that it goes off quicker. But then at some point in time, you determine transportation mechanism, and you actually understand that, you know, that particular learning or things such as, like, you know, an animal dies or something, and you see the differences between the animals in different environments, in the cold place and in the warm place. And then that ultimately determines the, and that ultimately determines the overall outcome related to things. So that's my, yeah, so that's my consensus. Yeah, pretty much that's my consensus regarding things and my understanding of notion. And my understanding of notion. Yeah, that's my notion. That's my pretty much notion around that. And also here the concepts as well, these initiates. Yeah, we just yeah, now I'll keep it at that particular level at the present moment in time. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I just wanted to go over. At this present moment in time, which I think is pretty relevant and hopefully useful to some. And that's the mode that it's in now, at the present moment, and hopefully it can possibly extend onwards at a later time to something else. But I'm not going to get too deep into that because I don't really have a correct understanding of how this ultimately functions. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoy that, and yeah, enjoy, and like, share, subscribe.